Everyone, I'm here with Mark, who I've been in CAP networking with for a couple of years now, and we are part of a little team that are putting together Discovery Day for CAP business networking groups. So we thought we'd do a quick little conversation just because our experiences of networking are so different, and my arrival at CAP was incredibly out of the blue for me and very different to where Mark started his career in networking. So, hello Mark, who are you? What are we doing here? We're just letting the fine folk of social media find out a little bit more about what we do at CAP and who we are.
Hi Sally, thanks. Our background, I guess, in networking is quite different. I mean, when I joined CAP, CAP Wednesday Club a couple of years ago, sort of just slightly into the start of COVID. I'd already been networking for about 10 years. I used to be a regional leader for networking before COVID, so I was running at that point 15 4N groups. So I'd like to think I've got a sort of a reasonable experience of networking and just business groups generally, having done many of them over the years. Whereas I know you came into CAP at the same sort of time, back in sort of middle of 2020. With very little experience and knowledge of networking, and probably wondered quite a bit what it was all about, I guess.
Yeah, well, I was introduced to CAP through a friend who I used to live in the local area with. I now live very far away from the hub of where CAP is in the Forest of Dean, but it's just proved, I think, over the last couple of years for us all just how connected we are online, and that really, the pandemic brought a lot of not very nice things, but it also made us change the way that we do things. But yeah, I didn't even know what networking was. I think I had those sort of preconceived ideas that networking was you go into a room, everybody's selling things to each other, and then you go home. Whereas my first experience of proper networking was in a Zoom room, and I had to learn how to network, learn really what it was to be a small business owner online, not having met anybody on the screen in real life, and very, very different experience in general. I considered everybody else there to know what they were doing, and I had no idea. I think it was not necessarily what you're doing, because, you know, conversation is conversation. And I know that there's etiquette and just the ways that you do things, and I had very little self-belief in being a business owner at the time. So it was a slow roll for me, but very different approach, I guess. And if it wasn't for the pandemic, I would never have joined.
Yeah, I sort of know what you mean, because obviously we were all networking newbies once, you know. Back in 2010, my understanding of the term networking, when I came out of 27 years in retail banking, networking internally within the bank was basically being in the right place at the right time with the right directors to try and, you know, get noticed internally. And it was a very false environment. So when I joined WPA and it was suggested to me that, you know, networking was a sensible thing to do to develop relationships, professional relationships over time, and therefore build awareness of myself and of WPA. I had a similar sort of thinking to yourself, probably, in the fact that I thought, well, what's that? You know, I'm not sure that I sort of quite like the idea of that. And then I realised myself, in the same way as you did, just the only difference being that the networking I was going to when I started was face-to-face. And obviously the networking you was going to when you started was Zoom. But, you know, it's still about connecting with people on a human level. It probably takes slightly longer through Zoom networking, because you know, you don't have quite the sort of connection on a first or second meeting. But the basis is still the same. It's about finding people that you sort of recognise you could work with, or you sort of have connections with, and then arranging one-to-one meetings. It's not all about what you actually do in the meeting itself. That's just the start point. It's about building up knowledge of other people who could be really, really good connections for you or for them, and then having one-to-one conversation with them. And I guess that's what you found over your time as well. I imagine that's probably a key part for you, isn't it? The fact you can have one-to-ones with people you meet.
Yeah, well, that was, we all had time on our hands basically during those pandemic years, in that 2020 when everything was new and everybody was going through the same thing in some form. I hugely valued the one-to-ones, because I just knew that there was a lot of experience and knowledge in the room, and I was just, I guess, being teachable. I wanted to be teachable because I was very curious as to how this worked, because I know that it does work. I know that community, it works, and at the end of the day, CAP is a community of people who've got each other's backs. We don't have to be best friends down the pub every weekend. This is a business network, but we are all friends now, which is amazing, you know. And as CAP means, collaborate and prosper, I think we've all, I think a lot of people really have collaborated, whether it's just from listening to other people's experiences, not even necessarily what they do in their business life, but just what they offer as a person in those one-to-one conversations and getting to know someone and getting to know someone's story. Like, that was a game changer for me, because it sort of spoke both of my languages, you know, the business thing and that personal connection thing.
It's the ability to connect to other people as well. I mean, I very often will hear somebody say something in a CAP Wednesday meeting. Occasionally it could be a visitor, or might be somebody I know better because they're a member. And I'll suddenly think, oh, actually, so-and-so would be a really good connection for them. And then I can introduce the two of them. And that's a positive for both of them, basically, because they're being introduced to somebody on a warm connection that is going to be a good positive relationship for them, or is likely to be a good positive relationship for them. So that, you know, it's really, as you say, it's looking out for each other as members. And it, quite frankly, it works. I've built my whole business. I've been in WPA for 12 years. I've built my whole customer base on the back of either networking directly or word of mouth of existing WPA members that originally came through some networking connection and then have referred me on to others, etc. So my whole business has been built on the back of networking, both CAP and other networking. And also a lot of the suppliers that I use now, both professionally and personally, often come from networking connections as well.
I think that's what happens. I mean, being able to, I know that we've got someone in our group that does amazing cocktails. I think we're all onto that. If none of us have had a box of cocktails yet, we're obviously doing something wrong, or he's doing something wrong. But what's not to love about that? Yeah, we have a lot of laughter in our group, which is really lovely. And I sort of switch off when you talk about football, but that's fine, you know. I think that it is the warmth of the room that I want to get across to people, especially as we do these discovery days, that you're obviously with a large organisation. I am a self-employed young woman who has a number of things that I do, but I largely come into CAP with what I do in utilities. But I'm also a number of other things, and that's slowly crept into conversations, and you get to know the person more than just the product or anything that you're selling. But I think there is a big difference between maybe you can speak to this, you're with a large organisation, and then there might be other people out there that want to do networking, they work at home by themselves, they've started a new venture, it might even be their second job that they want to do networking with. And just to encourage people that this could still be a really good setting, because as we're proving right now, completely different business is that we're part of.
It definitely will be a good opportunity for them, because if you're starting a new business, however small it is, you're going to need some degree of connections. You're going to need certainly some degree of advice, because without advice, it's so difficult. And there'll be people in CAP Business Club that are absolutely prepared to give their time to help you, and to advise and to just give you tips and hints along the way of stuff that you know could be useful. And you know, we don't know what we don't know. When I started out in WPA, so yes, it's a sizable organisation, but I'm still looking to build a customer base from a zero start originally. And I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know, lots of stuff. And the best way to find that out is building relationships with people over time who do know that stuff and are prepared to pass it on and give you advice. And that's the way that we build knowledge.
Exactly. And I like what you said earlier. It wasn't just that you were putting the business out there, it was you were putting yourself out there. You were building your own self-confidence, not just because you happen to want to grow your business, but actually the presentations that we do, they're not always about business, they're about our lives, they're about life lessons. So I really like what you've said there, that it's about a personal journey as much as it is about being in a business networking group,
No, you've dropped the J-bomb. Oh.
What did I say?
Journey.
Oh, journey. We're all on a journey.
The J-bomb, Every single person on the X Factor was on a journey.
Oh, yes. Well, maybe here we're on an expedition. I don't know.
Dropping the J-bomb. Yeah, okay. We're all on a journey.
Or in a process. I don't know. I feel very American. Yeah. Very American.
If we start going down Talking Heads route, we're on a road to nowhere.
Oh boy. Well, on that note, I think everybody has probably heard our experiences. Is there anything you would want to add to your observation of, the kind of people that we have in networking and in the business? Isn't that we prefer to call it business clubs, don't we? I just think it would be awesome to get as many people along to the Discovery Day as possible, get to meet fine folk like us, and ask questions and be exposed to it.
Yeah. The other thing we haven't mentioned, of course, Sally, is that within CAP Business Club there is 5 currently groups, I think.
Right.
But as well as that, there's also other aspects to CAP Business Club. So there's CAP Plus, CAP Extra, CAP Social, all of which you sort of find out more about as you become a member and you get to understand the way that CAP Business Club works.
Yeah.
And CAP Extra, CAP Plus, etc. They all provide something different to different members.
Yeah.
Some are more valued than others to individual members. Somebody who finds CAP Extra really, really superb might not have thought about joining CAP Plus, for example.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of different aspects to it, and CAP Discovery will just give the ability to understand all of those a little bit more and see if CAP Business Club is something that A, would help, and B, you should be part of.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you for your time, Mark. We're in this together, and I look forward to speaking to Paul, who actually started the CAP business groups, and getting
Paul who?
Our mate Paul. Speaking to him and finding out a little bit more from his perspective and how it all started for him. And hope you guys have enjoyed listening. We'd love to see you at CAP Discovery, and you'll get some great jokes from Mark all along the way if you come along. So, all right, guys, thank you so much.
Thanks, Sally.
Bye.
Cheers all. Bye.